Good evening, college football world. You know what time it is? It is picks and analysis time on a wonderful Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. For all you late night owls out there, me and Jackson, let's keep it real. We don't sleep around here. We work day and night to make sure you get our best picks. Because boy, oh boy, it's conference championship week. So get ready and get ready. You're going to get a lot of exciting entertainment tonight. And I'm looking forward to it. I know Jackson's looking forward to it. I wish our teams would be playing in the conference title games, but we did it to ourselves. So you live with it. But it is what it is. Can't cry about it. It's spilled milk. We have to get over it, move on, and pull our big boy britches up. But Jackson, happy conference championship week. How are you? And
doing
what's going
pretty good,
on?
Austin. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, Jackson. Loving life. I wish the weather would be a little better here in Kentucky, but you deal with it.
True. Seems like the weather's not going to stop Western Kentucky in the Conference USA title game against Jacksonville State as we start things off.
Nope. Yes. This is an interesting one, Jackson, because if you're not like big into, a lot of people like the bigger brands, right? Like unless you're a sicko like us, like we know about this. Like most people be like, huh? Who's what, WKU and who's Jacksonville State? What in the world? They're one of those that they play a lot of times on Tuesday, Wednesday nights. And it's just one of them. It's like not a lot of people know about them. But Jackson, how much of either of these teams have you watched this year?
I watched a little bit of Jacksonville State. I mean, I saw them when they were 0-3. And I thought to myself, people aren't even going to remember that they were 0-3 because Rich Rod's going to have them in some kind of comeback during the season. He's going to be like, hey, guys, we still got conference play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've watched WKU a few times because obviously they're in my state. And my nephew, he went to WKU, so of course when he's in town, we watch that. And then of course I watched Jacksonville State when they played Louisville. Both teams, Jackson, like especially Jacksonville State, they had a nice season last year. What the heck happened to them this year?
You know what's funny though with Western Kentucky?
What's that?
They played Jacksonville State last week and clinched a berth in the Conference USA title game with a victory over Jacksonville State. And, Sam Houston, funny enough, lost to Western Kentucky in October and lost to Jacksonville State the week before rivalry week.
Like, isn't that something? I completely forgot about that. So these two teams, just have played one another. That makes it even tougher because there ain't nothing that they have in the playbook that the other has not seen. Like what do you do? Like that's one of the things, Jackson, that scheduling has to get better with that because you got to try to space those out. Because that would be like Alabama, Auburn playing in the Iron Bowl, right? One year they could play for the SEC title, play 2 weeks in a row. But as we know, Auburn is incompetent. So we all know that, and you know that as well, Jackson. You give them the yellow hammer last week, but it's gonna be interesting. I'll let you make your pick first.
That yellow Fisher Price hammer.
I'll let you make your pick first, though, Jackson. Who do you think's gonna win?
I think Jacksonville State's gonna win it 31-21.
They say it's hard to beat a team twice, but to beat them 2 weeks in a row, that's an even more of a challenge. You know what, Jackson? I'm gonna go Jacksonville State too. I think having played them last week, they've probably seen most of their playbook. I'll go Jacksonville State 30-28.
And then we got the Mount West Championship between UNLV and Boise State. What do you know? We have a regular season rematch.
That makes 2 now.
Because UNLV went against Boise earlier this year in late October, lost a tight one 29-24. And this one is for all the marbles. Well, all the marbles involving the group of 5. Because I don't think this next game is going to have – you're going to need like a miracle. But that's not happening. So the Mount West title game is the winner of that game is basically in the playoffs.
Yes. Yes. Jackson, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a fantastic point. This game right here, the Mount West Championship, Jackson, we're almost basically watching a playoff football game on Friday, if you kind of think about it. Because like you mentioned, and the committee even said it, the winner of UNLV Boise will get the group of 5 spot, more than likely, unless Tulane or Army just blows the other one out and presses the committee. Like, think about this, Jackson. Everyone's chalked it up to Boise, right? What if Barry Odom and UNLV stun Boise?
Ooh, that would be a good question.
What would that do for Barry Odom's stock?
Oh, it'd rise
as a
it
head
up.
coach.
I mean, I know he doesn't necessarily need to lead UNLV to the Mount West title to be a coaching candidate because, I mean, he's already a humongous coaching candidate. Everybody wants to get him. There's going to be that one team that wants him. I'm surprised North Carolina hasn't thought about getting him, honestly, because that's one guy I'd consider getting.
Yes.
Which we'll definitely get
Jack.
too late. We'll be talking about John Summerall in a bit.
And I'll say this, Jackson, about UNLV. Think about this, Jackson. Their starting quarterback goes into the transfer portal. And remember, we had a long conversation about that. Was that the right decision? Was somebody in his ear whispering him sweet nothings like, hey, maybe Ohio State or something will take you to be a backup, whatever the sweet something was. And UNLV's backup comes in, and they lit the world on fire there at first. And then he had his moments where he struggled. And then, like you said, they played in the regular season, which was a very good football game. I don't know if many people stayed up and watched it because it was a late-night game. A lot of the West Coasters probably did. But if Jackson, I know we did because, as I keep saying, we're sickos. We got nothing better to do on a Friday night. But this is another one of them scenarios where it's like, is Boise going to beat them a second time? The old saying, it's hard to beat a team a second time. And could this be Ashton Genty's Heisman moment game where he clinches the Heisman?
For me, And, UNLV has dealt with some stuff a lot. I mean, we know that Matthew Sluka, he bailed out on them earlier in the year. Turns out they never really needed Sluka. They got Malik Williams taking over the town in Las Vegas. And we saw Jackson Turner and Cam Oliver just terrorizing everybody on defense. And they terrorized Boise State's rushing attack in their October meeting. But wasn't enough to beat Boise State, but it was something.
And Moses, thank you for joining us. Clint says Boise by 100. Okay, that's a little extreme. That's a little extreme, Clint. I get it. get it. You're riding the Bronco, but okay. And Dave said that's why I'm picking UNLV for the reasons that we mentioned. Jackson, could you see a world, Jackson? Like, and this is a serious question. Could you see a world where UNLV could slow Genty down? Or do you think Genty's going to get his yards anyway?
Well, I mean, they did it to
UNLV
him
just
in,
has.
they did that to him in October 25th. I think they can do it to him again. Because, I mean, the rushing attack on defense, the rushing defense is 18th in the nation. So they don't really allow that many rushing yards in Vegas. So kind of like how they stomp out card count and quit fast in a hurry, they stomp out the rushing game.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong real quick, Jackson. Is this a neutral site game or is this in Boise?
This is in Boise.
Okay. I couldn't remember if the Mountain West was one of those conferences that did home field advantages. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I still think I'm going to go with who I thought. But I'll let you pick first, Jackson.
You know, I'm going to take a chance on the boys in Vegas. Because I've been hearing a lot about UNLV's defense, including what the passing game can do to Boise State's secondary. And Boise's allowed a lot of huge passing plays on defense. So I'm thinking maybe that we'll see UNLV win this fantastic finish in the Mount West title game 28-24. And it's going to be a wild ride. Clint's asking us if Barry Odom has 1 foot out the door. We'll answer that in a little bit as soon as Austin gets his prediction out the way.
So I've thought about this for a couple days. Jackson, I really want to go UNLV. I really do. I want to be like you guys. But Genty's on a mission right now. He's so close. He's been patient. He stayed at Boise. He could have gone to the transfer portal. He could have gone anywhere in the world. But he even said Boise State is going to be a team to look out for. And you know what, Jackson? They're not going to let this opportunity go to waste. Spencer Danielson and the boys do it again. I'm going Boise at home, and Ashton Genty and company get it done 34-23.
Well, and the question about Barry Odom having 1 foot outdoor, we're going to wait and see. I mean, I don't know which team is going for him yet, but he will leave for somebody big. I don't know who's going to be just yet. Keep chopping says Brett Yormark wants a piece of Boise. I doubt it. I mean,
I could see a world where that could happen, but I'm with you. Probably not. Because Genty will be gone after this year, and they'll be like, oh, this isn't what we wanted.
Yeah. I mean, I love the idea of Boise staying the Big 12 because it not only reunites them with BYU, but we get to see Boise State TCU as a conference game again, like we did in 2011. And we could see Boise State Utah as a conference game. So, and you know, and BYU Boise State would finally be a conference game. So that'd be great right there. Mayhem Matthew is giving out a yo. What is up, Mayhem Matthew? Thank you for tuning in to tonight's edition of the Pits Analysis Show. We appreciate everybody tuning in on the Pits Analysis Show from yours truly, Jackson Johnson, my partner in crime, Sports Talk with Austin Williams, and we head over to our next game, the 2024 edition of the American Athletic Conference title, which is fortunately not a conference title rematch.
Yeah, the thing is, Jackson, if Tulane hadn't blown their opportunity against Memphis on Thanksgiving, would they have had any chance, Jackson, to possibly play their way in to a playoff spot? Obviously, that's not going to happen now if they had any, but what percentage would you have given them?
If Tulane had won against Memphis, I would basically flip a coin between Tulane and Boise State, to tell you the truth.
I would have given them like a 20% chance because there's always one of those odd ones. And of course, we know Jackson Army, they had to beat Notre Dame if they wanted any hope, but they didn't. So, and Tulane has no hope anymore either. That's what makes this game interesting, Jackson. Who's going to play for pride? Who's going to play this game for the pride? To even though they know we can't make the playoffs, but we can still win our conference. Army is one of those run triple option teams. I don't know how you defend that either. That's the thing I've never figured out. How do you defend that? Would you have any clue, Jackson?
No, I don't think I could. I don't think anybody can stop Army's running game.
I mean, it's so difficult to stop. And the thing is, Jackson, is Tulane going to come play motivated, to be honest with you? They didn't look like they were motivated against Memphis. Are they going to come motivated?
Good point.
Friday night, or are we going to get, or is Tulane just going to be like, nah? And then, like, which Tulane are we getting?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question.
I mean, that's the thing where I'm at. If Tulane shows up and plays a good football game, they can win this game. But if they don't, Army's going to run them over. Like Jeff Munkin, like Jackson, he's done a tremendous job with Army. Even though they didn't beat Notre Dame, he's still done a tremendous job. And Bryson Daly, he's a heck of a quarterback for what they got.
Oh, yeah. And Troy V makes a perfect point. They're both going to play for pride. They can't make the playoffs. They still want to win the conference. Agreed.
I'll say this, Jackson. What do you think? Where's your head at for this game? What are you thinking?
Well, it would be the first time in school history that Army has won a conference title in all of college football. And Tulane, I mean, they've been very good in all of college football the last few years, especially with the magic that Willie Fitz has been creating. And the magic that John Summerall has been continuing, which we'll get to John Summerall here in a minute. But I'll be honest with you, I think Army's going to win this one.
Ooh, okay. What you thinking though, score wise? Think we're going to get a shootout, or you think? What are you thinking?
Like a 28-21 victory by the Army Black Knights.
Okay. You know what, Jackson? I'm going to believe in Tulane. Give me Tulane to win this game. I'm going to say they're going to show up after being embarrassed on Thanksgiving. I think they put a not a stop, but they slow down the Army running attack. And they get their offense in gear. I'm going to go 24-10 Tulane.
Well, and honestly, we've been hearing about John Summerall, and before we get to our next game, which is going to be a wild one.
Oh, I know you're excited for it.
Yeah, well, John Summerall has been getting looked at by North Carolina. We hear he's being looked at by Purdue in Central Florida. And I got to be honest, Central Florida and Houston, I'm gonna check and see if they're playing next season, which I believe they are. Yeah, they are. So John Summerall was to go to Central Florida. That would be a pretty interesting game. Houston, Central Florida going against one another with the past two Tulane head coaches.
Oh boy, Jackson, if there's any Tulane fans watching, that they're not going to be very happy you just said that. They don't want you to put that out there.
Wow. They'll get some pretty good coaches. That is for sure. Because I mean, if they can snatch up John Summerall and snatch up Willie Fritz, I know they're going to snatch up somebody really good.
Yeah, that's one thing I do want to hit on real quick. Is Jackson, after Willie Fritz left, I thought Tulane was going to take not like a nosedive, but I thought they were going to take a pretty good dip. I was thinking, okay, 9-win seasons are going to be very rare now. And it's like they're 9-3, and I'm thinking, okay, they found him another winner. And it's like please don't poach him from Tulane, like Houston did Willie Fritz. Like, please don't do that. Like let him have something nice. Let him have something nice. Like, for Christ's sakes. Like, can't New Orleans have anything nice? Their Saints can't win a Super Bowl, and now Tulane can't keep a coach, possibly. Like, and they get hit with hurricanes. I mean, can they not have anything good there in Louisiana?
Good grief.
But you know what, Jackson? There is one team that can still have something good.
What's that?
And that's the Cyclones of Iowa State.
Yep. That's right. Because Iowa State is playing for their first conference title since 1912. If they win their conference title in the Big 12 on Saturday, it'll be the first time since 1912 that it's happened. And the other time that Iowa State has won a conference title in all of college football was in 1911. This was like before our great grandparents were born.
And Jackson, I want to say this. Jackson, what was one of your biggest dreams coming into this year for the Big 12? What was your dream championship game?
I wanted to see Iowa State BYU get in. Or BYU.
Well, guess what, Jackson? Guess what, Jackson? The gods have gifted you half of it.
Well, I mean, Arizona State's been impressive, so I mean, I'll take it. Dave says he wants Iowa State to win because it's the closest team for him to cheer for, and it's going to really make Iowa fans mad. And Keep Chopping says, before World War I, dang. Yep, and before the Federal Reserve became official and the 16th Amendment happened.
Mm-hmm. And here's another cool thing about it, Jackson. It's 15 versus 16. Jackson, this is basically another playoff game. We were talking about Boise UNLV, but basically being a play-in. The Big 12 title games is you're playing now. And I just want to point this out, Jackson. Can we give some love to Kenny Dillingham and the fantastic his fantastic turnaround in just 2 years at Arizona State? I know, Jackson, you love using Matt Campbell and what he's accomplished at Iowa State. But let's give Kenny Dillingham some props. I mean, he took a program that was on near deathbed, about ready to pull the plug on him, and all of a sudden, Arizona State has life, and they're playing for a playoff spot. And in their first year, Jackson, they're playing for the Big 12 title. What a story.
That's crazy.
And not taking anything away from Iowa State, but Arizona State, they're one of the best stories in the sport today. That's how good I think they've been. Like, to be honest with you, Jackson, how many games did you think Arizona State would win this year?
I was thinking they'd at least do just enough to reach bowl eligibility or get close to it.
Okay. You were nicer to them than I was. I had them going
Like
4-8.
Yeah, because I mean, I had them winning their non-con games. I think I had them beating Texas Tech, Cincinnati,
I got you. Okay.
and I had them beating Central Florida.
And Keep Chopping says ASU could be the first dynasty in the new Big 12. They could. First year in the conference. They could be like the Patriots. They can run that thing. But in all seriousness, though, Jackson, their running back, I'm just going to call him Cam. I keep getting his last name wrong. Cam, he's a phenomenal running back. I'm surprised he's not getting a little more love for Heisman votes. Like, obviously, I know he ain't like a tippy top with Hunter, Genty, and all them. But I'm surprised he's not in like the honorable mentions category or near the top 10. Like, he's been phenomenal for the Sun Devils. He's been a reason why they won a lot of their games this year. Like Arizona State, they're for real.
Yep.
And Jason O, I have a hard time pronouncing that young man's name, so I'm just going to say Cam, just to be on the safe side. Just to be on the safe side.
There you go.
Scatabo. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Scatabo. Okay, Scatabo.
Scatabo.
I'll eventually learn his name. He could be the future Cowboys running back because I could see that happening, but I digress. Yeah, but Scatabo. Jackson, he's a phenomenal running back. I can't wait to see what he does in his near future. But as for Iowa State, I know I'll let you talk more about him, Jackson, but I want to say this. What about Matt Campbell going from possibly getting hot seat talks to now being loved by Iowa State?
Well, he's back to being loved.
Jackson.
Yeah, because he's back to being loved again. It was like there were like one or two people crying in chats and on social media that were saying, "Oh, well, he's not doing what's best for Iowa State anymore." It's like, I'm sorry, but can you name me a better coach that can lead Iowa State to a Big 12 title? I don't think so.
I know. Well, because Jackson, I remember after his second year, and I remember we had this conversation on air, and a lot of people were saying, "Is Matt Campbell? Is his seat getting warm? Could this be the end?" And you were, Jackson, one of Matt Campbell's biggest defenders, and I'll give you credit for that. You stood by him. You were like, "Listen, if you could find me a better coach that wants to go to Ames, Iowa, be my guest. But if not, then hush."
And I know that he was like a huge coaching candidate after 2020, after his 5th year at Iowa State, where he led them to the Big 12 title in the COVID year. And even though they lost to Oklahoma, they won against Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl. Yeah, they disappointed everybody in 2021 after being a preseason top 10 team. Yeah, they went 4-8 in 2022. But 7-6, I know that's not anything to be impressed at, but Iowa State was basically building towards momentum for 2024 and beyond last season, especially that upset win over Kansas State in their backyard. And the fact that Iowa State made some magic with that game-winning field goal against Iowa, that was great right there. And we got Wolverine Gage giving out a what's up. How you doing tonight, Wolverine Gage?
What's
Thanks
up?
for tuning in. And
I'll say this. Wolverine Gage, you've got to be one happy guy. You beat your rivals, Ohio State, eliminating them from the Big Ten, and you've got one of the best recruiting classes for the next couple years. You've got to be one happy Wolverine today. But yeah, go ahead, Jackson.
But yeah, Iowa State, I was worried about them for a moment because they lost to Texas Tech and Kansas.
Which
and for a little while they were.
You.
I know. But
I remember telling you, I was like, Jackson, Iowa State's going to let you down when you least expect it. And you were like, no, Matt Campbell's got this working. I'm like, okay, this is where Joey Maguire, where he likes to spoil people's seasons. And lo and behold, what happened? Ta-da! Almost spoiled Iowa State's season, but they overcame it. Go ahead, good buddy.
oh yeah. Like that's the thing though. They rebounded nicely after that upset loss to Kansas with a huge victory over Central, much needed victory over Utah. They needed that quick, fast, and hurry. And they had that huge victory over K-State last week that basically clinched a spot for them to get in the Big 12 title.
And Jackson, real fast before we make our pick, you ought to know, Iowa State fans, if you are listening, you know who you need to send a bouquet of flowers to or a basket of fruit, whatever you prefer? Lance Leopold in Kansas. Without them beating Colorado, you guys are not here right now. So you owe Lance Leopold a lot.
And they did upset BYU on Big 12 After Dark.
But the thing about it, too, is, Jackson, if Kansas loses to Colorado, Colorado's in this position. Because, remember, Colorado only had one loss. They control their own destiny. That's why I pointed that out. They ought to send Lance Leopold a basket of fruit or something. And, of course, Arizona State beat BYU. You almost had it, Jackson. Almost. Almost had your BYU Iowa State. Almost. But BYU couldn't quite get it done. But as for this game, though, you know what, Jackson? Call me crazy, call me nuts, call me a lunatic. I'm riding with the Sun Devils this game. I like where they're heading. Kenny Dillingham, momentum sky high. Iowa State has been playing vulnerable down the stretch. Give me Cam Scatterboat. Once again, can't say that name. Give me Scatboat and the Sun Devils to pull it out and keep the momentum rocking and rolling. 30-24, Sun Devils, Arizona State.
You know something? I think history is going to be made for the first time since 19. Because I didn't think Iowa State could do it. I didn't think they could do it against K-State. I thought the pressure was going to get to them. But, it didn't, thankfully. And I think the Iowa State Cyclones are going to win their first conference title since 1912 with a 28-27 victory.
Okay. We're split on this game. I like it. One of us will be right, hopefully.
Hope it's me. But we got the 2024 MAC title game between Ohio and Miami, Ohio.
Yeah, this is an interesting game. And I'll ask you again, Jackson, how much of either of these have you watched this year?
A little bit. I mean, we saw Miami, Ohio starting off 1-4, but then they won out at the rest of the season, including a October 19th victory over Ohio where they won 30-20. And we saw Tim Albin making magic for the Ohio Bobcats in his fourth season, where they've gone 9-3 this season. So it's been a pretty big season for the Bobcats.
Jackson, Miami, Ohio. I remember last year we were talking about them as a sleeper kind of team, one of them kind of teams, that were, in the MAC, kind of not getting a lot of recognition. What happened to them this year? I know they had the quarterback injury, but other than Like, obviously, that's a big reason. But what happened to the magic they were building there? I was starting to believe in them.
Weird things, man. Weird things.
Because, to be honest with you, Jackson, I watched a couple of their games this year. That's how in tune I was trying to get with them. Because I thought they were going to be like another sneaky, like get maybe 9-10 wins, get one of the better bowl bids for the group of five. And then they were just like, bleh. Like, just bleh. And I'm just like, what the? Like, I thought they were supposed to be one of the better teams out of the group of five. Besides Boise, UNLV, and the usuals. Like, what the? But yeah. And like you said, Tim Albin in Ohio, what a tremendous job he has done, Jackson. Getting the Bobcats a 9-win season. But now I'll ask you this, Jackson. Is it enough to propel them to the MAC championship victory?
It's a good question. I think it's going to be Ohio winning that rematch, honestly.
You're going Ohio too. Okay. So we're both going Ohio because I'm believing in the Bobcats. What's your score?
Ohio's going to win 31-21.
Jackson, call me crazy. I had the same score. Ohio 31-21. You stole my score.
I didn't know that.
Now, Jackson, what in the world? You skipped past Georgia, Texas, good buddy. What the?
No, I didn't.
Like, we talk about Penn State.
We didn't skip past Georgia, Texas.
Yes, we did. There it is. Come on, good buddy. We need to save the Big Ten for last because Jackson, Penn State. That I might pick an upset. You never know.
Yeah,
gotta keep people guessing. That's my dead giveaway. But anywho, go ahead, Jackson. Go ahead, introduce it.
Well, we got the 2024 SEC title game, and the funny thing about this is it's the first time a new kid is playing for the SEC title. We've never seen that happen in the history of the SEC championship. We've never seen a new kid in their first season play for the conference title since it's been established in 1992.
I want to mention this, Jackson. We've got a lot of these newcomers playing for the conference titles. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. What do you think?
It's actually a good thing, honestly. I actually kind of like it.
I mean, I'm like in the middle. Like, it's a good thing that they're thriving in their new conference, but it's bad in showing that the actual teams that have been in the conference for a minute are out of it. But that's what scares me because
Doesn't scare me.
Texas, they're the new kid on the block. Well, Texas is the new kid on the block, and they're already only one loss in the SEC. Like, that doesn't happen a lot.
No.
Like, unless you have a generational team like Alabama and the Georgias did. Like this year, Jackson, a lot of teams got beat up. Texas was the only one that didn't. Which, if we're being honest, Jackson, a lot of people said it's because they had a soft schedule. Well, what do you think of that narrative, Jackson? Would you say they got a soft schedule for the SEC at least?
Oh, yeah.
You think, okay. I didn't know if you were in that group with the people or not.
I mean, because, like, I felt, yeah. I mean, even though, like, Michigan hadn't had a good season, I think it's a good thing that Texas, that Michigan beat Ohio State. Jay Snow asked us, did Missouri play for the SEC title their first 2 years in the conference? Well, 2 out of their first 3 years they did, in 2013 and 2014, and they lost in both of them.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
They were
yeah.
5-7.
Yep.
They were 5-7 in their first year of the SEC.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, like you were saying though, Jackson, about Texas' schedule though with Michigan.
Yeah. So I mean, the Michigan win that's gotten better a little bit. Oklahoma, that's a win that's got worse for them. Vanderbilt finished out at 6-6. Florida, I mean, they haven't lost since they played Texas. Arkansas, it's not exactly 1964. Kentucky, well, they're hell. So they're just hell. At A&M, they're the Aggies.
That's a good win.
True.
I mean, I like what Mike Elko's done. This ain't the Jimbo Texas A&M anymore. But I want to say this, Jackson. You know, looking at this from the Texas perspective, do you think, Jackson, if Texas wins the SEC, do you think they get the number 1 seed? Do you think they would jump Oregon, even with 1 loss?
No.
No. And then, of course,
Oregon's unbeaten.
And then, of course, I mean, but it is the SEC, Jackson, and we know how much they love you guys. That's why I put that out there. But for Georgia, though, Jackson, what's left of them heading into this game after what we saw on Black Friday? What's left of them?
Oh, Georgia? Oh, well. There's a lot left for them. But it's a toss-up for me. This game's a toss-up.
No, like Jackson, they've got to be mentally and physically exhausted heading into this game. Is what my point I'm trying to get across.
Mm-hmm.
Is they played 8 overtimes and gave everything they had, and now they got to turn around.
Well, hell, they had all last Saturday, so.
But still, 8 overtimes. And let's not forget, Jackson. The coup d'etat is Georgia's in the playoffs. Georgia's got if Georgia beats Georgia Tech, they're in the playoffs. Yes, we get it, Joe Tessitore. They're in the playoffs.
That got so irritating. Like, oh man, it's like I think I was talking with you about that the other night. It was either you or Jeffrey or both of y'all, but it was just like, oh my god, that got so irritating. I was like, why do I have a feeling I shouldn't be looking down there? It's like, are you that hard for Georgia, Joe Tessitore?
And it's like, if Georgia beats Georgia Tech, they're in. The committee can't leave the runner-up out. And it's like, okay, we got it. We understand. You can't leave the SEC runner-up out.
Nobody wants to see Joe Tessitore stiffy. Like, good God.
That's what was annoying. It was like, we got it. We got it.
I mean, I love his exciting calls, don't get me wrong, but this was one night where I was just like, shut up.
It was almost like, we got it. Like, we get it. Georgia's in the playoffs. If Georgia wins, they're in. They're safe. We got it. And he's like, oh, but if they lose somehow, next week's a play-in for the playoffs. It's everything against the winner of A&M and Texas. Like, it's not rocket science, Joe. We know this. It's not like you're talking to a bunch of monkeys. Like, we understand. Like, Georgia wins, they're more than likely safe. They lose, it comes down to them winning the SEC. We got it.
Yeah,
it was just one of them.
He was betting on them to win, but oh well. We're not worrying about Joe Tessitore. We're worrying about the SEC title game.
So who's going to call the SEC title game? It ain't going to be Joe Tessitore, is it? Is he going to call this game?
No.
Or is Herbie going to get the call in?
Herbie's getting the call. Joe's going to call the Big 12 title.
Okay. Well, at least someone else. And Troy V says, well, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Well, on what? Georgia making the playoffs? I mean, if Joe Tessitore was here right now, Georgia's a lock. I mean, he told us 20 times on Black Friday. He crammed it down our throats, don't you know, Troy?
He told us so much that we needed to get to a point where the old narrator quit, so we had to hire a new one.
Yes, precisely. But as for this game, Jackson, we went right on track. We're having a venting session about Georgia and the playoffs.
Yeah, let's not go off track.
I mean, this is what happens, Jackson, what the playoffs does to you. But yeah, to the title game though. Does Georgia have a chance to win it? Let's start there. What do you think, good buddy?
I'm going to go with the Texas Longhorns getting revenge 35-24.
This is also, like you said, another rematch. Georgia's physically, mentally beat up. Texas is Quentin Ewers. How healthy is he going to be? Because that Georgia defense, when Kirby Smart and company play Georgia defense, Georgia's defense could be one of the best in the country. If Ewers not 100% healthy, I could see a Dogs win. But I'm with you. I'm going to take Texas to win a tight one. Because I think Texas, with the familiarity, it's going to be the first one who makes a mistake. I'm going to go 24-20 Texas to win the SEC.
Well, we got the 2024 Sun Belt title game between Marshall, and Louisiana.
I'll go Marshall. I like what they're doing. I actually caught a bit of their game last weekend. I'll go Marshall 27-23.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what those two are going to bring. And you know something? It's not a regular season rematch. So we're good to go there. And luckily, the next two games are not regular season rematches. But fortunately, I think the Marshall Thundering Herd win this one 27-24. And we got the Big Ten title game on CBS between the Penn State Nittany Lions and the Oregon Ducks. Now, the next time we're going to see the Big Ten title game on CBS will be 2028. And then 2025, it's going to be on Fox. And 2026, it's going to be on NBC.
I was about to say, Jackson, in their deal, aren't they kind of making this like the NFL does with their Super Bowl, where all three networks get it?
Yeah. Troy V says being on CBS sounds strange. Well, I mean, you're older than I am, Troy V. You saw college football on CBS before it was known as SEC on CBS. Matter of fact, I'm sure you saw SEC and Big East on CBS. When college football started having it on SEC exclusive 1996, and they shared it with the Big East, which I believe that was from 1996 to 2002. I figured everybody knew that, honestly. Yeah, I mean, that's what Jay Snow's saying. CBS used to have all kinds of games. Yup. Yeah, because like they were airing like Big Ten, Big Eight, Southwest Conference, ACC, SEC. They were. Oh, I didn't mean it like that, Babine. I saw he watched. I just thought he watched like older college football games in person because like I only
Listen,
watched them on YouTube, and I've only watched them on ESPN Classic as well. I've just never been
listen,
in person to witness it.
listen, Jackson. I'll save you the trouble. Troy, he's a young 30-year-old man. Okay, Troy's a very young man. Jackson was just pointing out, that Troy is in his early 30s, and we're only in our teens. We're young men. We're young men. But
Well, we're
anywho,
teens and dog years.
yes. Stay tuned for
more so
disaster.
me than Austin. He's catching up to me.
Yes, but I'll say this, Jack. It's been. Go ahead, Reed. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm laughing at his comment.
Yeah, ABC and Fox were what I've gotten used to. Remember the older days, though. Almost 30 years past 30, LOL. Keep chopping, says Troy Sold. He remembers football before TV. Kidding. Laughing emoji.
So, I wanted to say this. It's important we bring this up, Jackson. And Troy, cover your ears for this because you're not going to like it. But it's important. We got to highlight how Penn State got here. Because if you've been living under a rock, the scenarios we're going into Saturday were Ohio State, Indiana, Penn State. All three were alive, even though Ohio State had beaten both of them. But there was one team that could ruin everything, and that was the Michigan Wolverines. The one thing that could change Oregon, Ohio State from having a part two. And what happened? The unthinkable. Michigan puts Ohio State down, thus propelling Penn State into the title picture. And here we are, Oregon, Penn State, and Jackson, Penn State in another big game. Oh, brother. This isn't going to end well, is it?
Well, I mean, it is the first Big Ten title game that's not going to feature Ohio State or Michigan in quite a while. So, I mean, this should be an interesting one.
Yes. I'll say this, Jackson. Is Penn State's defense good enough to hang with Oregon's offense? Do you think they can slow them down just enough?
No.
Do you think Penn State's defense can slow Oregon's offense down just enough so Penn State's offense can score?
I mean, they've been going up against freaking Maryland. They had to get a fake punt to beat Minnesota. They smacked Purdue and won a tight one against a mediocre USC. Honestly,
you're lucky teammate here.
I just don't see Penn State putting a stop to Oregon whatsoever. But who are kidding? Both these teams are making it to the playoffs. That's the way I'm looking at it here.
Yeah. But here's the thing, though, Jackson. The thing of it is it, Penn State, for everything that has happened, all the critics of James Franklin, us included, that say he can't win a big game. He doesn't have it in him to win the big one. If he wins the Big Ten, Jackson, he puts to rest all of his doubters. Even though he lost Ohio State, guess what? He won the Big Ten.
Yep.
What can you say about that?
That's
How can
right.
you dispute James Franklin? How can you dispute that? Jason O does bring up a good point. Oregon struggled with Wisconsin and Boise. And they struggled with Idaho. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, but that was in September.
They're not unbeatable.
That was in September.
But that don't matter, though, Jackson.
Yeah,
it proves, though, that listen, Jackson. I love you to death, like brother. But I'm gonna get this point across to you, like Joe Tessitore. Here. get ready for your dosage here.
All right.
So, thing is, Jackson, it doesn't matter when it takes place. You're freaking Oregon. Why are you struggling with Idaho out of all teams? I can understand if you're playing, I understand Boise. Boise might be more legit than we think. Boise could win a playoff game. Well, But Idaho? Really? Idaho? Come on, Jackson. How can you defend that, even in September?
I mean, this is an Idaho team that lost to the best team in the FCS, Montana State. I mean, it's like, there's that. Jackson
Tessitore. Here we go. Oh yeah, Lord. Jackson. We found you a new career. You could be Jackson Tessitore for Alabama. Be like, if Alabama beats Auburn, they're in the playoff. If they beat Auburn, it'd be great. Be great for ratings. But all joking aside, I see where Jason was coming from. They did struggle with those teams.
Mm-hmm.
And Oregon's not unbeatable. But Penn State's defense, they're the heart and soul of that team. If Penn State's defense comes to play and can hold Oregon under 20, Penn State's got a shot. Like, they really do. It's Penn State's offense is the wild card. If we get to Penn State that we got against Maryland and Purdue and all of them, they can win this game. But if we get the Penn State offense to play to Ohio State, it could be an ugly, ugly night for Nittany Lions Nation.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want me to pick first? Or do you want to pick first?
You go ahead, pick first.
Real quick, I want to point out, Troy V says, I kind of like Penn State. Oregon travels 3 time zones, and Penn State had a good D. Real good tight end. He has Singleton. Not Singleton. No, Singleton's the running back. Crap. But yeah. And a good running game should be a good game, yes. Penn State does have a good running game, and their tight end a lot of people like. Jackson, I really want to pick a Penn State win.
Do it.
I want to do it.
You do it.
But the problem is,
you don't have to tell me who you're going to go with. You go with whatever you feel like you should.
No, but you're my sounding board here, Jackson. Crap. I'll do it. This is if Penn State loses, I'm coming back here Saturday night, and I'm having a venting session. Give me the Nittany Lions to upset the Oregon Ducks for the Big Ten championship. Give me Penn State 24-17. Give me Penn State.
I've got the Oregon Donald Ducks winning the Big Ten title in their first season, 31-21.
Okay, we split. Okay, this could get interesting Saturday. Come on, Penn State, don't let me down. James Franklin, I'm begging you, don't make me look like a fool. Come on, Penn State.
Well, I mean, they're going to the playoffs, so you got nothing to worry.
Well, I don't care about Penn State going to the playoffs. I care about them winning this game. Make me look good. I put my reputation out there for them. They need to make me look good. I need my credibility. I need the street cred.
From the old West, like my reputation, like, nah, you're good, man. You ain't no gunfire with a mustache. Come on, man. You ain't no blind Bill Hickok. Nah, I'm just teasing you.
I say my credibility. But
just teasing, man. This is why we do this show, gentlemen.
Speaking of credibility, though,
like, we have so much fun having these little bits.
Yes, it's kind of sad, Jackson, that it's almost the end. But Speaking of credibility, does Clemson have any credibility left?
They look bad against teams with a pulse.
Here's my thing, Jackson. They really need to be sending Fran Brown and Syracuse a basket of fruit because they backdoored their way into this too. Now we're talking about Iowa State. At least Iowa State looked confident.
They need to be sending him like his favorite dish. Give him a big old kiss on the cheek, whatever. Because I could tell, because Syracuse saved their season. I mean, they're like, oh God, we lost South Carolina. Yeah, Syracuse bailed us out.
Oh my gosh. Like, it's one of the things, Jackson. Clemson, they're only in this playoff discussion because of Syracuse.
Yep.
Like, that's it. And for anyone, obviously, this is the ACC championship game. Just for anybody that didn't know, for our viewers out there, it's the ACC title game. And here's the thing too, Jackson. I wanted to bring this up since we're talking about it. Did you see the venting session the Miami AD and Cam Ward had on Twitter today about them getting left out, possibly? Did you happen to see any of that?
I saw a little bit of it.
I don't know if you can find the tweet or not, but or anything, but he was talking about how it's disrespectful to put a 3-loss Alabama in over us 2-loss, and we play a tougher schedule. And the Miami AD says, do they actually watch these games? We've got the best quarterback on the planet. And it's just like, oh, no. Don't tell me Miami's going to turn into Florida State.
Don't you dare. Don't do that, Miami.
Start crying foul. And they're like, we play some of the best defenses in the country. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, I get it. You're trying to state your case, but you're sounding like a whiny butt now. Like, you should have just beat Syracuse.
Well, anyway.
And you would have avoided all this problem.
Well, Florida State will do a lot better next season, so I mean they'll be good to go. But we gotta get back.
Jason O says what?
Yep. So
yeah, Miami was having a venting session, and of course Alabama was at the center of the controversy again. Not to put it to bed, they're upset at the committee put Alabama in the SEC because the SEC gets revenue. But yeah, and Jason O, putting it politely, is not a Miami guy. But back to the ACC title game. I just thought I'd bring that up since we were on the ACC.
So we got Clemson, SMU, and SMU in their first season in the ACC has been fantastic with Rhett Lashley. My God, they've been magical. And, the narrative was at the time when they won a tight one against Nevada was this team's not going to last in the ACC. They lose to BYU. They're not going to last long in the ACC. Oh, well, they're certainly not going to last long.
Mm-hmm. And they've routed off 11 in a row.
And Clemson, like I said, they've looked bad against teams with a pulse. Lost to Louisville, lost to Georgia, lost a tight one to South Carolina, couldn't get it done. But Bean, I will get to your question in a little bit after we get done talking about the ACC title game.
Yes, we're not going to ignore it. We promise. Jackson will answer this, but we're going to predict the ACC, and then we'll get to that. We'll take care of our business first, and then Jackson will.
Yes.
And Keep Chopping has one too. We'll get to those in just a second, guys. In just a second. Don't you worry. We're not going to forget about you. We love you too much to forget about you. Go ahead, Jackson. Go ahead.
Well, in SMU last season, they went out with a bang in the AAC, winning their ACC title game, and in the last year of that, they were in that conference. So that was huge right
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
So now
Yes.
we're going to see what SMU can do. And, last season was the first time since 1982 that they won a conference title of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't like counting the 1980s, because you might feel, well, my mistake, it was 1981 where they were tied first. But the last time they won a conference title prior to 1981, 82, and 84 was in 1966 with Hayden Fry as head coach. But SMU has been tremendously awesome with Brett Lashley. And we've been looking at their
Mm-hmm.
QB situation. It's been pretty big right there. Jennings has done magnificent.
Yeah, I want to bring this up real quick, Jackson. Since you brought him up, you notice when SMU started really blowing teams out is after they benched Preston Stone, because Preston Stone was the
Yep.
starter going into this year, and then
Yep.
Kevin Jennings comes in and he lights the world on fire.
Oh yeah.
And the thing too is, Jackson, I think it's got a lot to do because he's mobile, like he's got that athletic ability. He's a running quarterback. He makes defenses fear him. He's a dual threat. He makes you fear him both ways. You're like, you take away his passing game, well, then you got to worry about the run game that he can provide. Or you take away his run game, he can still sling the ball down the field. It's one of those situations. I think that's what's really helped SMU along. It's the fact that he's dual threat, he's fast on his feet, and it's helped create speed on the offensive side of the ball that they didn't have with Preston Stone. I really think that's been their key to success this year. And the defense is playing pretty good too.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, Jackson, but I took notice of them after they put a stomping on Pitt, the 48-11. You remember that game, Jackson? When we all thought Pitt was legit, and then SMU was like, tisk tisk, Pitt, you're not on our level.
Yep.
That's when I really took notice of SMU. I was like, dang, they're like for real, for real. And what have you been telling me all year, Jackson? BYU SMU is the most what?
The most underrated game in all of college football this season.
Bingo. And it's proving it now because, Jackson, because it's going to get me to my next question. What if Clemson wins this game? Is that SMU loss to BYU? Have they done enough to still get in? Because they would have lost to a really good BYU team.
Oh, do I think an 11-2 SMU should be in the playoffs? Absolutely. But do I think the committee's going to throw them out? Yeah. Do I think the committee should?
Who do you
No.
think? Who do you think they throw them out for?
Oh, they probably put them in for like an Alabama and either a Miami or an Ole Miss.
I was about to say Bama's in. Like Bama's in. Like it's who on the outside. So you're thinking Miami would sneak their way back in if Clemson pulls off this win.
Yep.
And I want to say this, Jackson. Like you said, Clemson, they're a team that they beat up on everybody, right? But the teams that they lost to, like you said, Louisville, Georgia, South Carolina, what do they all have in common?
They're teams with
Pulse.
pulses.
Yes. They're teams that are good football teams that can win on any field, any given time. And I got no problem saying this about Clemson. I think they're a good football team. I just don't think they're as great as they once were. That's just my opinion. I think Dabo has lost a step or two. Like they're not the Clemson that was dominating Nick Saban in Alabama. Like Jackson, you remember that, right? When Trevor Lawrence smacked y'all upside the head and was like, "What the heck was that?" We're not seeing that Clemson anymore. I don't think.
No.
Like this is the new normal for Clemson, and I think you would even agree with me, right, Jackson?
Yep.
9-3, 10-2 every year. That's their new normal.
Mm-hmm. That is
Now,
something
I'll
to
say
get
this.
used to. Although, to tell you the truth, next year's Clemson LSU game will be a toss-up.
And you know, let me ask you this, Jackson. Has Clemson's championship window, has it closed? Can we officially say that the Dabo's and Clemson's championship window is closed? Like national championship, not ACC, national championship.
Yep. National championship window is closed. It's the weakest link.
Closed.
Goodbye.
But with all that being said, though, Jackson, does Clemson have a shot to win this game? Or has SMU got too much?
I think SMU's got too much. I think it's going to be 35-20 in the 2024 ACC title game.
You know what, Jackson? I'm going to go SMU too. They're rolling. Clemson's coming off a loss. I'm going to go 42-28 SMU in a high-scoring shootout. And Troy V says the committee said they won't punish the conference losers. We'll see how truthful they are if Clemson win. That's the key. They say that, but then when they realize we can make more money with Miami, let's put them in instead.
I would say watch College Game Day on Saturday because you're going to see a lot of. You need to watch all the pregame shows, all the postgame shows on ESPN, Fox, CBS, NBC, like all of them. All of them. You need to watch sport. You need to basically stay up super late to watch Scott Bay and Pelt see who's doing the lobbying session. Because there's going to be quite a few. You're going to see a lot of lobbying.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're at it, go on Twitter, go on Instagram, go on social media apps you don't like as well. And yes, I'm afraid you have to look at TikTok. So, because there's going to be a lot of lobbying. There will be an ass load of lobbying from coaches, athletic directors, and you'll know who it's from. You'll know.
Yes. Jackson, I'm going to warn everybody now. You're going to see Greg Sankey on College Game Day Saturday, lobbying for a 9-3 Ole Miss. And you're going to see Lane Kiffin probably. You're going to get a heavy dose of that. He's already fussing that Ole Miss is getting cheated and everything else. Ugh.
Well, and that's where the question for me comes. I would not put in an Alabama team that got smacked 24-3 against Oklahoma in the top 12.
Okay. I want to read this real fast. Does an impartial Jackson think Alabama is ranked correctly? So like you said, Jackson, is this you with your Crimson Tide hat on or off? Like, Crimson Tide off, Jackson.
Crimson Tide off.
What do you think?
That's what I'm saying because I've got my Crimson Tide hat off. I would not put in an Alabama team that lost 24-3 against a sits Oklahoma team in the top 12. I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. And this kind of correlates with the next one. Does a Clemson win push Bama out? Dabo's revenge. Here's the problem. Jackson mentioned it. It's more likely going to push SMU out.
That's what I believe.
They keep saying, "Oh, yeah," like they're saying, "Oh, it won't hurt the conference losers." Yes, it will. They're just saying that to keep people happy for the time being. Don't be surprised if SMU loses Saturday night. We see Greg Sankey.
Yep. Somebody is
or
going to
the
get the classic screw job, especially while Ward Manuel is getting himself a double cheeseburger.
and Keith Choppin says Kiffman, the guest picker. Oh, Lord have mercy.
You know,
goodness.
I've been thinking about this. Ole Miss and Alabama. Somebody said that Ole Miss should be ahead of Alabama because of the fact that they beat Georgia by a higher margin. And they beat Oklahoma while Alabama didn't. Well, here's what I'm looking at. I know that Alabama beat Georgia by a touchdown, and Ole Miss beat Georgia by double digits. We see Alabama lost. They didn't even get a touchdown against Oklahoma. Whereas Ole Miss beat Oklahoma 26-14. Alabama smacked LSU around. Ole Miss lost to LSU in overtime. So I feel like maybe that LSU win has come in handy for Alabama. Because, I mean, we talk about that Georgia win, but that LSU win has come in handy for Alabama. I'm thinking maybe that's what the committee has considered. But, again, if you're asking me, would I put Alabama in the top 12? No. Because if I were a committee member, I would not be putting in teams I want in the top 12. Because being a committee member and ranking the top 25 teams are not about how you feel or what you want and what makes you happy. It's about the best of the best in all of college football. From your perspective, from what you've seen all throughout Thursday, all throughout Friday, and all throughout Saturday.
Yes. And Troy V says the best of the 3-loss SC teams right now looks like South Carolina, but they lost to Bama and Ole Miss. They can't jump them. True. And B Bean says, so Austin is not a fan of TikTok? Not really. Like I have people in my family that have it. I know Jackson.
Oh my God. Like I've got family members tell me, you should be on TikTok. You should be on TikTok. Like, yeah, I'm on it.
Like Jackson's like doing it for business purposes. And I have the TikTok app. I'll post on it every now and then. Like our shows and stuff. Kind of like what you do, Jackson. But I ain't sitting there scrolling for 5 hours looking at a girl trying to shake her booty. Like, no. That's not.
Or some random dude waving his stash of cash with his tongue out in front of a car they
like
put
he's Mr. Big
in
Shot.
Over. Like,
yeah. And Keep Chopping says a playing game this weekend would be cool, but the first few out will always gripe and moan. That would be cool if they did it like an NBA style. Like, have a playing game. Like, Miami wants to complain. Put them up against Ole Miss, winners in, losers out. Problem solved. And B Bean says, wow, Jackson, interesting from a Bama fan. Yeah, Jackson's very unbiased. Like, if you've listened to him long enough, he will be dead honest with you. He's not biased towards his Crimson Tide. He loves them, but he's in the business of making sure everything's right and fair. Ain't that right, Jackson?
I did my best.
Would you two put in Bama's? Who would you put in Bama's place? Miami, Ole Miss, South Carolina? Oh goodness. That's kind of hard because Bama did beat South Carolina, but they look sloppy doing it.
Yep. Ole Miss smacked South Carolina off the face of the earth. Alabama smacked LSU off the face of the earth while Ole Miss lost LSU. Miami, they've looked slop. They smacked Florida off the face of the earth, but they've been doing that, coming back here and there, where they're trailing, then they're coming back, trailing, coming back. The refs bailed them out against Virginia Tech. They almost blew it against Cal. They almost blew it against Louisville. And it caught up with them against Georgia Tech and Syracuse. But if I'm being asked who I'd put in if I had to choose between Miami, Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina, I would put Miami ahead of them all. Because like we look at Georgia Tech, yeah, they're 7-5, but they kept it close with the Georgia Bulldogs to the point where we went to 8 overtimes in that game. And Syracuse, I feel like nobody's really watched them, even though this team has gone 9-3. And might I mention, Syracuse beat a really good team in UNLV, which we talk about BYU SMU being an underrated Friday night game. But good God, we got to talk about Syracuse UNLV on October 4th on Fox Sports 1. That was a tight game. And if UNLV was to win the Mount West, that would make Syracuse look good in a way. And it should, in a way, help Miami. Like, if that were me, it would. That's what I would be looking at. I'm looking at what kind of team do we see Syracuse be? And, again, like Syracuse beat Georgia Tech. Nobody thought about Syracuse, Georgia Tech week 1, but except for a few people in the ACC and Syracuse and Georgia Tech. But, it happened. It was a tight one. And, yeah, Syracuse lost Stanford, but still. Fran Brown has done an amazing job at Syracuse. I'm surprised he's not coaching.
I'll say this, Jackson. This may be a controversial. I would honestly, even though Ole Miss smacked them around, I would have South Carolina in Alabama's place, to be quite honest with you. And really? It may be controversial. Yes, it might be controversial, but I'm going to explain why. I feel like they've been playing the best out of the 3 options. They've looked the best more recently. And I feel like they haven't had really any egregious slip-ups. Ole Miss lost to a really bad Kentucky team. Georgia Tech, Syracuse. If being honest, South Carolina would be my pick. I think Shane Beamer and company, I feel like if they wouldn't have had the Phantom roughing the passer against LSU either, they'd be 10-2. I truly believe that. That's how good I think they've been. That would be my pick. They're playing the best right now, even though they've got the 2 head-to-head losses, and some people value head-to-head. And I acknowledge they lost, but they've been playing better than most of their competition there. For me, it'd be South Carolina.
I'm always going to value head-to-head, even if it's from like week 1, week 2, week 3. That's how I am, and that's how I'm always going to be. I never do the transitive property stuff. I never go by, oh, well, even though this team's ahead, they would have beaten them 9 times out of 10 otherwise, or 6 times out. No. I go by what is and what isn't in front of me. Alabama and Ole Miss.
Well, go ahead. You're good, buddy.
I would have Alabama and Ole Miss above South Carolina because of the fact that they both beat South Carolina. And I feel like South Carolina should have beaten LSU in week 3, because that way it'd have been, you know what, you're 10-2. I can let you lose in Ole Miss and Alabama go, because you went 10-2 the rest of the way. But because South Carolina blew their shot at victory against LSU, I wouldn't put them above Alabama and Ole Miss. Nah, I wouldn't. But I'd be tossing in between Alabama and Ole Miss because I'd be like, okay, Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. Alabama got smacked around by Oklahoma. Ole Miss didn't get smacked around by Oklahoma. Alabama barely beat South Carolina. Ole Miss smacked South Carolina off the face of the earth. Alabama smacked LSU off the face of the earth while Ole Miss lost to LSU in overtime. So, I mean, you're talking about a huge cluster right there between Ole Miss and Alabama. And the thing that doesn't even help is they didn't even play each other. That's what sucks, is they didn't play each other this season.
Here's the thing, too, Jackson. I do value the head-to-head. I acknowledge they lost both those games. But it's also about how you played since you lost those games. You have to look at that in a vacuum, too.
Good point.
And South Carolina's on the roll of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Like I said, I acknowledge it.
And funny enough, South Carolina, you want to talk about smacking teams off the face of the earth. Their first game of the 6-game winning streak was against Oklahoma, and they smacked them off the face of the earth 35-9. So they got a really good case right there.
I agree, Jackson. I agree. And that's the thing, too. Like, I'm with you. If someone sits me down in the court of law and says, okay, South Carolina lost to Alabama and Ole Miss, correct? And I would say yes. But have you watched how they played since then? You also have to evaluate that part of it, too. You can't just say, oh, this team beat this team. That automatically makes them ahead of them. Well, I look at it as, how are they playing since you've beaten them? How have you looked since you have beaten them and since you lost to them? That makes a big difference, too, in my opinion.
Yep. You've got a good point. Keep Chopping has a good point. Didn't Sellers get hurt against LSU? Aren't we supposed to factor in injury impact? Good point.
Yeah. It's one of those where there's an argument for all three. But more than likely, if it was left up to us, I would put South Carolina in. Jackson would go Ole Miss. I mean, not Ole Miss, Miami. But ultimately, it's not up to us, unfortunately. And Keith Choppin says, at least Miami will give free Pop-Tarts for a week. Oh, Lord.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Miami. Well, Jackson, he said it. Go ahead. Play it for a second.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Pop-Tart, play yourself in. Boom. There you go. He likes it all crispy and creamy.
Oh, gosh. Oh, Lord. Well, that's certainly
I think I've been on After Dark
choice.
a little too much. So it's like, I got to make better life choices.
Yes. Better life choices. But I'll say this, Jackson. This was fun, but we have some exciting news for you all that I think it's a good time to share now. You know, we're talking about the playoffs and everything. Why not go on and share it? Me and Jackson, if you love talking playoffs, which I know y'all do because we're sitting here talking about it still, we're going to do our reactions to the 12-team playoffs on Monday nights. You know, a Selection Sunday. Me and Jackson, we're going to talk about what happened on Selection Sunday. We'll talk about some of the matchups, who should have gotten in, who should have gotten out. We're going to break it all down for y'all Monday night. A special live stream edition of me and Jackson breaking down Selection Sunday and the playoff committee. So, strap in, folks. Mark your calendar. Monday night, December 9th, we're going to go over our takes on the playoff rankings from Selection Sunday and get you set for the playoffs. And then, of course, we'll have even more exciting news afterwards, but we won't want to spoil it. No spoilers. No spoilers.
No
But
spoiler.
Jackson, if people love this playoff conversation with us, they're going to get to talk exclusively about the playoffs with us on Monday night. And of course, we'll be back Saturday. Not to worry. We're going to be back Saturday. But Jackson, if the things stay the way they are, what's going to be happening on Alabama, the voice of college football, after Selection Sunday?
Well, depending on
and
the ball
tomorrow night
opponent.
too.
Well, depending on the ball opponent, we will have some guests from that team representing that team, like media people, fans, or content creators, coming on in to discuss their take on the game from that point of view. We don't know who we're playing yet. I mean, we like to say we know, but we really don't. But I know I'm going to be preparing Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, basically asking people, like whoever we're playing of that team. And if it's not Sunday, but then Monday, I'll be like, hey, welcome on Crunch Tide Live, and bam, got ourselves a future show.
Yes.
And what's
So
good,
make
Charles,
sure you check
thank
out.
you for tuning in. I see that you are a huge fan of Rick and Morty. How you feel about the?
Yes.
Oh man, that's a good show, man. It's like I love the one with the whirly dirly conspiracy where it's like Summer
Oh Lord.
turns herself inside out, and then like Beth does something where it's like, it's like, oh my god, it is like that's just so wrong.
But Jackson, that's another show for another time. We'll do that in the
Probably
off
gonna give
season when there's
Austin
nothing going on.
nightmares. It's gonna give him nightmares. He's too innocent.
Honestly,
Don't do
Jackson.
that.
Honestly, Jackson, I've never seen an episode of Rick and Morty, and I'm being dead serious. Like I know what it is, but I just ain't never seen it. Like that'll be a topic for the off season. We'll do a comedy, Jack and Austin late night TV shows podcast where we're talking about our favorite cartoons and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. But yeah. Anywho, Jackson, I know everyone's talking about the playoffs, but you do have another fantastic thing.
I just want to win a game.
You do have another fantastic show that does air every Thursday night and will air once again tomorrow night. And that is your take it away.
Calling the 9th edition of the Alabama Call-In Show from Jeffrey at Only Talk Sports and myself, where we take your calls on Alabama at the Voice College Football. And we're going to be discussing Alabama in Heaven at 11 and the takeaways from the early National Signing Day. Because the real one is in February of 2025. February 5th, to be exact.
Yes, sir. And you do not want to miss a moment of that. That's going to be great stuff coming your way tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Central Time if you're on Jackson's side of the woods, or 7 p.m. Pacific if you're for our West Coasters.
Yep.
Go ahead, good buddy.
And you can check out the latest recruiting videos where I cover my take on Dijon Lee committing to Alabama. And I also go over Derek Meadows flipping to Alabama from LSU. And I can tell you right now, those videos were fun, and you're going to see more exciting recruiting news on Alabama with the Voice College Football. And not just that, you can check out some of the magic I'm doing on my channel, Jackson Johnson 979, where I'm 112 subs away from magic number 500. Where I not only do shows like this with Austin, the Pits analysis, and the final whistle with them, but I also do the college basketball recap preview show with Will and D. And I do my show, The Jacksonian, where I have all kinds of guests, not just from sports world, but hopefully from the political world and pop culture world and other occupations as well, where they discuss their experiences to me. And for more updates on what I'm doing on my personal channel on Alabama and on Alabama with the Voice of College Football, you can check out my takes and my updates on Jackson VOCFB on X and on Instagram and Threads, Jackson Johnson 543-908. But Austin, what have we got going on Sports Talk with Austin?
Well, like I just mentioned, of course, Saturday we will be back with the final whistle, breaking down these games, going over more playoff scenarios. And then a special edition Monday night, like I said, we'll be talking about the new 12-team playoffs, what we, obviously going over Selection Sunday, giving a 48 hours afterwards, after the dust settles. Me and Jackson, special edition, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central, going live, talking about it, talking about the games just a little bit, not too much, because we'll save that for our picks. And then we'll just give you our overall thoughts and what we think. And, could the committee done anything better? And just general playoff talk. And we might even go to the phone line if we're feeling generous that night. You never know. It could get wild. We could go to the phone line. But those are the two things that are going to be coming out on my channel and, of course, Jackson's channel. And, of course, clips from this week and all the great stuff. And you can also find me on Twitter as well, where I talk about the Cowboys, talk about the Denver Nuggets, talk about pop culture in general. A lot of great things coming our way. And I hope y'all enjoyed Conference Championship Week. We're getting closer, y'all. It's getting to bowl season. The playoffs are coming. And we're going to crown us a champion very soon. Very, very soon. And hopefully your team wins it. Especially, it's good business no matter who wins it. But you know what else is good business, Jackson? Them liking, commenting, subscribing, and clicking on the notification bells so they never miss another great video or live stream that we do between me and you. It helps us both out, lets YouTube know we're doing a good job, helps the algorithm. Get it done, y'all. The faster y'all click on that like button, Jackson will send you a box of steaks to your front porch. Guaranteed. Next day shipping. So go ahead and hit that like for us. And while you're at it, you can subscribe and Jackson will throw in a free car. But love you guys. Jackson, you can come back in frame now. Uh-oh. Looks like I'm flying solo. Jackson left. Jackson has disappeared on me. That's okay. That's okay. Anywho, I thank y'all. Love y'all. Thank y'all for being here. This has been Sports Talk with Austin. And, of course, my partner, Jackson Johnson, who has done the disappearing magic trick on me. But it's okay. Hopefully, he'll come back sooner or later. But until next time, see you all Saturday. Go Cards. And sleep well and stay safe and roll tide, as my partner would say.